I'm not a big fan of Bethesda games. I think the recent ones have been pretty boring, and I was expecting Starfield to be more of that, and my expectations have been mostly fulfilled. There are a few fun and cool parts, but almost everything else is executed in a boring or lame way. I wanted this game to be good, because I really want a good space cowboy RPG, but there is just a lot weighing this game down, and really weird design decisions. But as I always I tried to be fair and highlight the good as well as the bad parts. Anyway, hope you enjoy watching and subscribe if you did. Ground combat. Let's start with the best part. The combat is the only thing that's executed well. I would have been really surprised if Bethesda fucked up point gun at enemy and shoot. Luckily they didn't. Combat is fun, lots of different guns and enemies react to getting shot, like staggering back when you shoot them with a shotgun. And there is a cover system, like if you crouch in front of something and start aiming, then your guy will peek out from cover. It's about on par with any other modern FPS shooter game in terms of shooting the gun, but Starfield doesn't really do anything else in combat aside from shooting the gun. Like, for example in Cyberpunk. You can shoot the gun, but you can also shoot missiles from your hand. In Starfield, it's mostly shooting the gun and throwing grenades. Except for the variance in gravity. If you're on a low gravity planet, you can jump or use your jump pack to get to a higher place, which will eliminate your enemy's cover. And one of the highlights in my playthrough was getting into a zero-G gunfight on a space station. Most gunfights take place on a horizontal plane, so when you go to a gunfight that is effectively using 360 degrees on both the X and Y axis, that is a very nice change of pace, and killing a guy and then watching him just float around was cool. Starfield does have space powers. I got them very late and I only bothered to use two of them. The infinite stamina one and the shield. The others just seemed like weird or niche use cases. And the infinite stamina one is the most useful throughout the game. And the shield is the best thing for combat. An aside here. Armor is lame. Armor generally looks like NASA spacesuits, and no one thinks those are cool. But there were a few that looked kinda cool. And also, I love it when my companion runs in front of my gun when I'm shooting it. So, shooting is mostly fun, but unfortunately you don't regenerate health. So you need to use medpacks. Which means you need to deal with the inventory and the map. The annoying part is the inventory management and figuring out where to buy gear and healing items for combat. These parts are almost unrelated to the combat, but it's a good place to talk about it. Inventory encumbrance sucks. I have always hated the way Bethesda does it in their games. There is always a lot of crap on the ground, so either you grab everything and your inventory gets filled up right away, or you waste a lot of time filtering through everything to pick up the stuff that is kinda good. But you would want to pick up everything so you can sell it for money, so that you could buy better stuff. Except in my playthrough, traders never had anything good. And there were very few traders in my opinion, and they had incredibly little money. I was never able to completely sell all my junk at just one trader. I always had to look for a bunch of different ones. And when I say look, I mean hopelessly googling where the fuck traders are in this video game. Because this game about exploration in space has the worst map I have ever seen in a video game. This map has no information at all. You know how in real life, you can open Google Maps on your phone to find pretty much any kind of store there is, and Google Maps will give you directions to go there? Well, in Starfield, that technology was apparently wiped from the world, and instead you have to wander around hoping you see a signpost directing you to a store. There is only one merchant that I remember the location of. The Doctor in Neon. I go there to buy healing items for combat, and the only reason I remember is because it's right next to the fast travel point. You have waypoints for quests and icons for fast travel points. Why can't you give us icons for traders? And then we can select them and get a waypoint on how to go there. And why is the map just this empty blue flavorless nothing? You can afford an artist adding some shapes and color to it. So managing your inventory involves trying to remember where anything is in the world and hoping to find the trader that has any money, and filling up your spaceship's cargo hold, or setting up an outpost, or building storage chests in an apartment and dumping stuff there. But almost everything in my apartment got completely wiped at one point, and I lost a lot of resources. So it's not a reliable method, and that was the moment where I gave up becoming invested in this game. We will get to outposts later. You can give companions a bunch of stuff, but that is not a good solution in my opinion, since they don't have a lot of space, and getting into that menu takes like 10 seconds, which is annoying if you have to do it a few times in a row. I wish you could just buy some backpack or some mule to carry stuff for you. And I am baffled that a AAA studio thought this map was acceptable. Space combat and space shippery. More of the fun stuff. What does good space combat need? Lasers, ballistics, missiles, and those need good impact on the enemy ship. That's all here, and more, because you can do that VATS zoom in on an enemy ship and target their systems, like disabling the engine and then board the ship, kill the crew and then take over the ship, and now you own the ship. Now you can keep it and use it or sell it for money. That is very incredibly cool. But what I don't really like is the movement. Like, it's fine, but it's only forwards. Like, you can't move to the left or right, like in Everspace. And I get it, they're going for a little more realistic thing, but it's less fun. So when I was getting shot at, my main and only real strategy to avoid getting shot at was going as fast as I could in the direction of that ship and try to stay behind it. And I would have much preferred doing some cool maneuvers to avoid getting shot at. But hey, I still had fun, even though that could be better. But the bigger problem was that it felt too slow. Like I was traveling a very small distance through space when I was going the fastest I could. And I think that is the case, since it took 7 hours for Alana Pierce to fly to Pluto. And I would imagine that if you fast traveled in front of Pluto, it would probably take you an hour to fly onto the planet, which sucks and is really lame. If you play a space exploration game, you want to fly to a planet and have it be at least mostly seamless. Instead, it's a long and tedious process. So the movement of spaceships is pretty slow and boring, but the weapons are good. Good impact when they shoot an enemy and a good variety. And that brings us to the spaceship design. It's a poorly explained aspect of the game and it took a while to understand, especially the restrictions. You can only have one reactor, one grav drive, one shield generator, and 3 weapons. Why? Why can't I just put a bunch of stuff on there and figure out how to balance how much energy I need versus how heavy the ship is versus how fast it goes? Whatever, but here you can swap out a bunch of stuff and put in better weapons or whatever part and make your own ship. And I didn't bother much with that because most of the good stuff is locked behind skill requirements. But I did use it for small upgrades. You can go into an upgrade menu, but the upgrades there quite often aren't actually upgrades. And it's better to change the ship to make it better. You can select the ship part and press G to attach something to it. And I mostly use that instead of hovering the item around hoping it fits somewhere. And I may be a dumb shit, but I didn't see any option to just make a ship from scratch. Like talking to a ship technician, there's no option to make your own. And I didn't see any in the menu. But you can always just take a ship and delete everything and start from scratch. It's a workaround, but it's there. So space combat is kinda cool, especially the boarding, but movement is lackluster. Spaceship design is kinda clunky, but it works. And you can't really explore with your ship in a space exploration game. Exploration and outposts. Since you can't explore in your ship, you explore on the ground. Bethesda is famous for that pick a direction and go. But here it's more like pick a planet to fast travel to, wait through loading screens, and a cutscene of your ship landing, then hold X to exit the ship and go. But unfortunately, there aren't really any interesting or cool places to go to. Here are the generated places of interest. Some form of building that might or might not have enemies. All those buildings have similar design and kinda look the same. A cave. Most of these are empty with maybe some broken machinery in them. A spaceship you can steal, that's kinda cool at least. Or some nature thing that you can't interact with. Like some tentacle life form or a beehive or something. Stuff that you look at once and don't do anything with. Just scan it to complete the survey for the planet and then move on. And that would be fine if getting around on a planet wasn't so horrifically tedious. When you land on a planet, some points of interest are generated around you, and they're usually pretty far away, and there are no land vehicles. So you have to run everywhere, slowly, constantly running out of stamina for a very long time. Seeing nothing interesting on the way except the occasional rocks to mine, or plant or animal to scan, but mostly an empty, barren wasteland, and that is every single planet. Where are the mountains, or lakes, or any typical feature of geography or a forest? Just something. But no, every planet feels like a desert. Moons at least look like moons, barren and empty. But a planet that has good heat and atmosphere and lots of animals should at least have a forest or something. The only planet that was kinda like that, had a forest and stuff, was clearly crafted for a quest. That was enjoyable to go through at least. But yeah, exploration is terrible here. It's tedious and nothing interesting to see, but you can make an outpost on planets, that's cool, right? In theory, yes. In practice, no. Wow, what a good slogan for this game. You need resources to set up outposts, and the resources take up a lot of space in your inventory. So you would dump all that into your spaceship or somewhere else. It doesn't take a lot of resources to make an outpost beacon, but to make a proper outpost you would need a lot of resources, and keeping them all in your inventory isn't feasible, because of encumbrance restrictions. So I would need to continually go back and forth between my ship and outpost to get the stuff there, and it just sounds exhausting. You know what would be a solution for that? Something I could put the resources on my ship into, and then move that to the outpost all in one go. Something that has, wheels or something on the bottom that makes moving it easy. Like the land vehicles that I'm betting that they're gonna sell to us as DLC. Or I could just fly my ship around the planet and maybe access my ship inventory from wherever. That could also be a solution. This is the worst exploration I have ever seen. Skyrim is a masterpiece of exploration compared to this. Story. So here's what the gameplay felt like. It's either fast traveling between points or running through a barren, boring planet for 30 minutes to get to where you need to go. And being on the ground on a quest, just shooting and talking felt like the exception and not the rule. But talking to people was probably a great deal of what I was doing. Problem is that it was just unmemorable and pretty boring. It's hard to get invested when all the characters have no body language, dead eyes, with facial expressions that look like there's a ghost pulling on their face to make them. Throughout my whole playthrough with the story, side and main, it was a flat line. There were a few moments where there was almost something interesting, but then it disappeared quickly. The voice acting wasn't bad, but the presentation is so flat and boring that I just can't be brought into caring at all. But at the same time, thinking about it, Knights of the Old Republic 2 is carried by the voice acting. The presentation there is heavily limited by age, but you still care because the voice acting is so good and it sells you the story. But here it just felt dry, like there's no emotion to anything being said to you. There might have been a few exceptions to that, but I don't care to go look for it. Then there's the quests themselves. Go here and interact with object or talk to person, or fast travel, get thing or kill thing, fast travel back, or the worst one of all, follow this person that walks faster than you walk and walks slower than you run. I think they also run slower than you run. It is the worst thing in video games and everyone knows that. Why is this still happening? It makes me wanna stop playing. It breaks immersion. It makes me remember, oh yeah, this is a video game, and they implemented the walk speed as a constant instead of as a variable, and characters only have 2 settings for locomotion. Also, the game was crashing to desktop quite often, And that happened once when I had just finished a long run of following a guy, and so when I opened the game again, I had to do it all again. And that moment I just thought, I think I kinda hate this game now. Here is a lame thing. There are no aliens, only humans. I have nothing more to add, it's just very lame. And when I say aliens, I mean sentient aliens that talk to you. So most of the story was a flat line, except one moment that I can only describe as ugh. And that is the reveal that there are multiverses in this universe. Here is a message to all aspiring writers out there. Multiverses are lame, and it is the shortest way for you to make sure the audience stops caring about your story. Because there are no stakes in a multiverse. You can just find another version if a character dies. And if the world ends, just go to another universe. And there is no uniqueness if there is an infinite amount of the same universe. Moving on to a convenience thing. Quests don't show rewards, so you don't really know if a quest is worth doing or not. I mean, sure, you will get some XP and some credits, but you don't know how much. This matters more with those generated missions. Things that weren't written by a human. Like those bounty hunter or sheriff missions. That are just go here and kill a thing or explore this thing. By the way, don't do exploration missions. I did one and it took me 3 hours and it was not fun. Companions, you can romance those and stuff, but again, flatline. Bad presentation and the voice acting didn't capture me. And looking at characters was just distracting. Swaying side to side with uncanny valley faces. Just, the story is meh. There's a few cool ideas, like this one mission where I was going between 2 universes. A mission that was ripped straight out of Titanfall 2. Except that was time travel, which is also lame. Yeah, I don't like multiverses or time travel. I just felt that the universe here was pretty boring. Not interesting. Only humans, realistic in the boring way. And yeah, there is some space magic, but even that felt very bland and boring. And like it didn't belong at all. Just nothing interesting that I wanted to learn more about. I guess I wanted to know what the Starborn are, but learning that was incredibly disappointing and lame. It's just people from another universe. Conclusion. What is the verdict on this fast travel simulator? It is a terrible exploration game with very serviceable combat. And story that is tolerable, except the gameplay execution of it is annoying. And you can skip dialogue, which is nice. I think the game is a complete failure as a space exploration game. Exploring planets on foot is boring and you can't explore the stars in your spaceship. You explore it with a map and then get to fly around a small area that you fast travel to. And as an RPG story game, it is alright. Standardized. Boilerplate. Nothing special. The combat is good at least. The good parts are stuck between a lot of annoyance. It has potential, but don't buy this game now. Buy it in 2 years when the mods make it really good and worth the price tag. I give it the only 2 genders out of 10. Vasco called me Captain Stone, and that was kinda cool. Too bad almost everything else is lame. But playing Starfield made me wanna play No Man's Sky again, so expect a review for that in the future. Until then, thank you for watching, subscribe, and have a bad, with some redeeming qualities day.